Don in London, hello. It's April 4th, 2013, Thursday morning, quite cloudy and grey where I am. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. Sorry, I'm just moving something. Addiction to substances or behaviour. So, my name is Don, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm in recovery one day at a time. And I have been continuously for quite a while, courtesy of help and support which came my way unexpectedly, and at first I didn't want it because I thought I could get over my addiction problem with alcohol on my own. Indeed, for a long time I denied it. I couldn't be one. I didn't need help to stop drinking, and yet I couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop, no matter what, and then life just got worse and worse. So from joyful and convivial through to dependency, self-harm, and then a killer malady, a killer disease, which I could not get out of alone. I was very lucky. Professionals got me dry, and they suggested I needed help to maintain not only being dry from alcohol, but also to get a life back, a life which would mean something again. So no matter how low we go, if we can find a way back to being sober and to face the consequences of what has happened to us over the years and make the amends when we can to those we have harmed, we are better placed to live life and understand life a lot better. I don't mean better than anybody else, I just mean we'll understand life a lot better. So what helped me? Yes, professionals got me dry, and then they suggested a fellowship, and that fellowship is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's not right for everyone, but it works for me, and I share how it works for me here. I never speak for anyone in fellowship, and if you are in fellowship, you know I cannot speak for you, and I don't want to, because you share your experience, strength and hope where you choose. And I was asked to share experience, strength and hope here for those who could not get to meetings and for those who did not know anything about AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. So what I do is I share the AA preamble, which explains exactly what AA is there to do, and then what's working for me today. And I also cover the 12 steps, or the 12 principles of living, how to live and understand life a lot better than we used to. So what is AA? I'll share the AA preamble, which is shared at the beginning of every meeting I go to. And it really does say what it can and cannot do. It says what it does on the can, basically. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship. It's not an organisation which will fix you. It's a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So the common problem, how to be sober and be in recovery. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and even I didn't have that at the beginning. But it does work. A desire to stop eventually was there. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, so it's free. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, so if we have a little bit of money, we put it in the hat to cover the basics. It's never about making piles of money, it's about covering costs. AA is not allied with anything, but you are. So this is where the difference is. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Everybody in AA, this is the truth of it, anyone can belong to a sect, to a denomination, to a political party, to an organisation or institution. And you can endorse, well, you can engage in controversy as well in your life, and you can engage, or you rather can endorse or oppose anything, depending what your preferences are. So the fellowship is there for this. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So the fellowship is that. It's not an organisation in the conventional sense. You can't blame anyone for anything, and that goes for everybody around you. And we are but trusted servants. So there are no leaders telling you what to do, and no leaders who should inform you of how you should do your recovery. How you do your recovery is your own affair. And hopefully it stays that way, that you develop an understanding of how to live life to the best you can with what you've got, and not with a drink inside you. And that's the same for all the fellowships. Nobody is there to say, oh, you must do it this way. And if anybody is suggesting you do it their way, I would suggest you find yourself some other company. You know, don't rely on one person, whatever you do, and certainly do not rely on me for an understanding of what fellowship entails. It involves many people helping each individual by sharing experience, strength and hope of what works, and being supportive through groups and meetings. And AA is as good as it gets on the day you're there. So you are part of it if you're in a meeting, and you're allowed to be yourself, good, bad and ugly, whatever is going on. A little bit of politeness wouldn't go amiss, but you can be whatever you want to be. And that's the whole point of fellowship. It's a place to express your experiences, strength and hope. So it comes out good, bad and ugly. You get to hear all the opinions and beliefs, why some people believe in God and why some people don't. You name it, it's open. And we prefer not to kick anybody out. I haven't seen anybody kicked out in all the years. Well, they might have been kicked out of a meeting for being belligerent and angry and violent, but then of course who wouldn't be? But we try and keep all those things to a minimum, and those who survive come back, hopefully, eventually, or not. Anyway, this is what I've been thinking about this morning, and I've been up a long time. I've got very strange sleeping patterns, but if I sleep at all it's a good thing for me. So the month of April is all about step 4, the fearless inventory, moral inventory of what we did, our assets and liabilities. A recap. The first 3 principles of the 12 steps. Step 1, powerlessness and unmanageability. Step 2, restore to sanity by asking for help. And step 3, letting go self-will and being open to listen to the answers that other people have had over the years. 3 steps which yield good news and bad news. The good news is we get our feelings back if we're staying sober, and the bad news is we get our feelings back if we are sober. Emotional and spiritual awakenings are happening, good, bad and ugly, because whoever said that an emotional and spiritual awakening was going to be, I don't know, the best thing that you've ever experienced in a good way. Sometimes the emotional and spiritual experience is horrible, because life is horrible. Now, step 4, the fearless moral inventory, where we're taking the lid off what we've done. Feelings running riot, no longer medicated to oblivion. 1 minute I feel okay and the world is wonderful. The next minute I feel dreadful and the world is as dark and desolate as it ever was. Feelings do run riot when there is nothing to suppress them in early recovery. So our feelings are all over the place. It is a harsh shock that we cannot control the way we feel from one moment to the next, which is why I went to loads of meetings in my early days, because I felt like going to the pub. Oblivion was preferable, and I knew that that was not the answer, because then I would never get past that place of needing a drink. So it was a harsh shock, and is it any wonder that without help we are likely to want to go back to a place of self-medication and oblivion? So on our own, what we learn in step 3 is asking for help. Letting in the world and letting go pride, ego and fear will help us. Somebody mentioned that life was okay until they got to step 4 recently, and then the prospect was so daunting it could tip anybody over, and we might find ourselves going back to the beginning. And I can understand that, I really can. Because when you've got all these feelings flying around in your head, and nothing will stay still for more than a minute or two, it is a very difficult situation. I do believe this is true. With all our emotions rising and falling, with every life experience we encounter, step 4 can ramp up our rage and anger at the world and what happened to us. And it can also ramp up the rage and anger against ourselves first, because it's easier to turn that inwards rather than go out and cause damage, because most humans don't want to hurt other humans. That's true, they don't. But all these emotional ups and downs, it leaves us in turmoil. So step 4, to admit and accept powerlessness, that's where we start. We stop drinking, followed by an understanding of the insanity of doing the same thing over and over again, and then suggesting that willpower will fail. And then to face the prospect of the fearless moral inventory. Fearless moral inventory. It needs balance to identify where pride, ego and fear did not help, and where we were unable to develop courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and growing confidence in making as many mistakes as we can every day as we need to learn how we can work towards solutions rather than get stuck in problems again, and how to let go of things we have no power over. We do need to feel the anger and rage and the resentments of the past, because these are often the feelings that we have probably provoked in other people over the years. So not only do we learn about how we feel about being sober and life being horrible, we can certainly start to see how we upset loads of people in the past. And I don't underestimate those feelings of guilt, shame and remorse, even when we've done things which people said, oh, it doesn't matter. It did to us, because we couldn't cope with them. Something extraordinary happened this morning. I accidentally turned on the TV and caught the end, like it was on ITV something or other, and caught the end of the Jeremy Kyle show. And I can't say I'm a fan of Mr. Kyle, but you know, a lot of people are, so let's go on. Jeremy Kyle seems to be a well-intentioned individual. However, his approach is probably the worst way to treat families in distress and suffering from the effects of alcoholism and addiction. He seems to believe that tough love, dressing down people, belittling them and bullying them is the answer to starting recovery. Of course, it is easy to provoke already damaged people into the worst of behaviour on television, with a moral crusade against lawbreakers, some of whom are going to be sent to jail today for life. Yeah, 3 people have burned their 2 burned their children to death. He has become immune, it seems, to the plight of individuals who are mentally ill, cannot make sense of their situation, and then displays them as corrupted people hardly worthy of any consideration as human beings. He may be right in some instances, and the trouble with this is they should not be on TV at all, or should they? And mentally ill people should certainly not be made scapegoats for the ills of a big broken society. So mentally ill people are the product of a big broken society, not the cause of it. Or are they? I don't know the answer. I do wonder, about the efficacy of putting mentally ill people in front of television cameras, and all they work on is ego, pride and fear, and you're asking them to have courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and build up their confidence before the cameras in what takes a long time. Step 4, the starting point of a lifelong exercise in learning to live the full emotional repertoire of what we have. The full emotional repertoire is understanding how we feel when times are good to extremely good, bad to extremely bad, and ugly to extremely ugly. So, and the measure of our feeling depends on the experience happening right now. We learn how to love, we learn how to be loved back, and our emotional range becomes more enriched with every life experience. And sometimes we're experiencing life for the first time. We will like some life experiences, definitely, and other life experiences we would prefer not to have had. The spot check inventory, which is step 10, together with a gratitude list, offers a way forward with courage to change, faith in what we do, and the confidence to keep ourselves healthy, even when life is difficult. So, you know, it's not it's a way of life for all seasons. It's a way of living in the most adverse conditions, like homeless, in my case, in the past, and then how to come back to life, and then try and integrate back into society in some way, how to be a part of things again. Now, something else extraordinary happened this morning. I could not stand watching the Jeremy Kyle show, and that's just me personally, and instead put on the BBC iPlayer to watch The Voice recorded last Saturday. I just needed an antidote of some sort. It did have a profound effect on me, actually, and instead, to hear the extraordinary singing abilities of potential artists was profound and very emotional in a good way. You know, the spirit of the voice and singing can make a person break down emotionally, and it certainly worked on me. To listen and share the experience, even though as a recording lifts the spirit within and opens our emotional capacities to be moved, and for us to enjoy the absolute wonder of the human voice. And for many years I couldn't listen to music or singing at all, because I was just depressed, and any sort of uplifting sound had the profound opposite effect on me for years, when I look back now. And maybe that's why I feel it so deeply now. I don't know. I just know I feel it profoundly. So, to enjoy the absolute wonder of the human voice, a great contrast between Jeremy Kyle, who frankly has lost his temperament and ability to be balanced and sits in judgment in a monstrous way. I put a question mark there because I don't know, but it certainly looks like that from my perspective. I'm not excusing the behaviour of anyone when I say that, but I am asking, is that the right behaviour of a presenter dealing with emotionally ill people? Through to The Voice, where performances were certainly judged, so judgment was being exercised again. And because it is a competition, and at the same time feedback skillfully kept those who were not chosen to go forward hopeful and respected for the people that they are. So they weren't dismissed as useless, which a lot of TV often does. So on the one hand, Mr. Kyle, with his pride, ego and fearful judgment, metaphorically flogging the mentally ill in public. On the other hand, The Voice, challenging and supportive at the same time, building courage, faith and confidence in those performing. Extreme feelings, anger and resentment by Mr. Kyle at these people he would cheerfully wipe off the bottom of his shoe if he trod in some dog shit. And the gratitude for the BBC Voice, which pulled every positive emotion I had this morning. You know, what were of course you can't predict that somebody's going to murder their children and you've had them on your TV programme. Step 4 and 5. The purpose of this is it for me. Step 4 and 5. The purpose of the Fearless Moral Inventory is to understand what happened, emotionally and physically, over the years, and as a consequence of our eyes are open to both emotional and spiritual living in the moment of now. Revisiting old wounds, old resentments which have never been resolved, the point is to let them out and deal with them and see our part in what happened. So as we point at other people, there's three fingers pointing back, it's often said. So, you know, Our personal conduct over the years will often cause us considerable pain because of what we did. Taking account of nothing in between our raw feelings, taking account of nothing in between our raw feelings and what we are doing in step 4. I did need fellowship and friends to support me. If I had needed to be taught a lesson about my behaviour and made to feel inferior, I would have been best placed with Mr. Kyle, who would certainly have heightened my emotional range considerably. If I wanted to make progress, deal with the awfulness of the past, and then come out the other side with an understanding of the consequences and amends to be made, the wiser choice was the counsellor who helped me. Truthful, challenging, wouldn't let me get away with anything, and able to help me put my life back together. Do I want Jerry Springer, Mr. Kyle as an intervention, or straight talking people in fellowship? I know what worked for me. And within fellowship, you don't get away with anything. It's not about getting away with anything. It's to understand the wreckage of the past, the consequences, and the amends to be made, if at all possible, without doing further harm. So I know what worked for me. It may be unfair to be suggesting anything but good intent, putting alcoholics and addicts on show on TV. And I could be wrong in my opinion about Mr. Kyle. When it comes to TV programmes which invite mentally ill people to participate and entertain, I am not sure what the impact of these programmes intend. So I'm not writing off Mr. Kyle completely. I have seen that he can have empathy, but you know, the way he looks these days, he has changed from where he was a few years back, where I saw him interviewing people I had seen over the years trying to get to recovery, and the person I saw this morning. A very different person. Yeah. The number of alcohol and drug dependent people in the UK is very high, and certainly TV programmes which show how disabling alcohol and drug dependence is to individuals, families, communities and society need to be made. And I do not know the answers for society, so maybe I ought not criticise after all. And after all, recovery is just one day long, and the ills of these TV programmes highlight what has been going on for centuries. No wonder the balance and content are difficult, and the truth does change every day. So, you know, just because a couple of people were on the Jeremy Kyle show a few years back, and he was able to vilify them on that programme, obviously had no impact at all on them putting to death their children inadvertently or with extreme prejudice. I don't know that either. What I do know is I know what I know. So, you know, life is full of good, bad and ugly bits, and so I was angry and resentful watching one TV programme and moved beyond belief by the sheer joy that people can bring into other people's lives. Maybe I was just emotional. I don't know. There's been fairly deep things going on with me, but that's okay, because I'm still going to meetings and still in the good company of people living with life. And we all have good, bad and ugly bits every single day. It's how we cope with life. One archbishop, somewhat retired, I don't know if he's still alive, when he was asked what is spiritual, he said it's the ability to cope with reality, which I think is I feel it's a very good starting point, the ability to cope with reality today. So when I can cope, I do, and when I cannot cope, I go to meetings or ring up a friend. We don't have to do it on our own, that's the whole point, and we will remain ill in the grip of this horrible thing called addiction until we can accept, say to ourselves it's insane and I can't do it on my own and maybe I need some help. and to admit and accept it's okay to get help, because we don't have to have it all invented inside our own heads. And I'm certainly not judge and juror on how other people view other people. That's for other people. So, can do, can't do, wisdom to know the difference today. I can accept my situation, where I am with people, places and things. I am powerless over people, places and things, and if I try to exert power over them, I'll be in trouble. So, can do, can't do, wisdom to know the difference. I cannot change you, but I can change me and my attitudes and outlook. So to God, or in good conscience, and for me it's all about truth, love and wisdom in the moment of now. And today's truth, love and wisdom will be enriched by tomorrow, so I might have a different point of view tomorrow. Truth, love and wisdom tomorrow will be impacted by everything that happens today. Can do, can't do, wisdom to know the difference. So to God, or in good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is just for the moment, minute, hour, just for today.